Hello everyone and welcome to lesson 20 called Joyful Literacy, and you will soon realize why it is called that. So let's have a quick review. Successful reading instruction. So this is from last lesson. Basically, according to National Institute for Literacy, it has been discovered that to successfully teach children to read, there must be 5 areas of reading instruction included in any pedagogical or instructional strategy choice. So anything that you do in the classroom, you want to be thinking about how can I include 1, 2, 3, 4, or all 5 of these aspects: phonemic awareness, phonics, vocabulary, fluency, and text comprehension. Okay? So ultimately, we want our students to be high achieving in all 5 of these areas in order for them to become independent readers and writers, which is ultimately where we want them to be. However, will there be students in your class that struggle with 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 of these reading instructions, these 5 areas of reading instruction? And I think probably from your practicum, you're realizing that there are students that are still struggling with 1 through 5 of these areas, no matter what grade, K, 3, or 6, unfortunately. So I want you to think, will not having a firm grasp on any of these affect their path to becoming a successful reader? So say they're not really strong in phonemic awareness and phonics, will that affect their path to becoming an independent reader? Your answer should be yes. Unfortunately, it will. And there are many different opinions out there in reader research land about whether one is more important than the other. But right now, the idea that children must have really a solid understanding of the first two, phonemic awareness and phonics, is starting to gain even more ground because cognitive scientists are getting in on this ground level, saying if students don't have an understanding of how to decode this language code, that they're not going to be able to get to this level of understanding vocabulary, being fluent, and actually understanding the text. So that's where sort of our research is sort of going in that direction, that phonemic awareness and phonics are absolutely crucial. So today I'm going to introduce you to a system or a resource called Joyful Literacy that focuses primarily on phonemic awareness and phonics, especially for vulnerable and struggling readers. However, it does go into all of the vocab, fluency, text comprehension, but it focuses a lot on helping those struggling readers with the first 2 aspects. Now, as I go through these ideas, you're probably going, hey, but I could use these ideas with a full class. Absolutely. All of these can be used with the full class, but the system, this Joyful Literacy resource, is focused on our more vulnerable readers. So let's have a look at what this is all about. So basically, again, if you are looking at NELP, which is the National Early Literacy Panel Report from 2009, as well as the Canadian Council on Learning from 2009, what they are saying is that 35% of our students are born vulnerable to not learning how to read. So that may be because of low socioeconomic situation. That could be an issue of low literacy support in early years from that birth to 5, or it could depend on culture, on race, on ethnicity, or on just the age. Maybe they're really young and they're starting school really young. However, this is the next number. And you would think if 35% are born vulnerable, then this number should be 65%. because you would think then that those are the kids that actually can learn how to read. However, we are finding that it's 93%, so it does not add up in our nice mathematical mind to 100%. So basically what we're now finding, according to NELP and the Canadian Council on Learning, is that 93% of children can achieve adequate literacy skill by grade 2. So even though 35% are born vulnerable, with a good, solid classroom reading program, 93% can actually learn how to read. There are only 7% of our student population that actually have a medical reason why they cannot read. So there's something cognitive going on, that they actually do not have the synapses in the neurons to actually learn how to read. So here we go. We happily have 93% of our students who can actually learn how to read. Of these 93% of our students, we have 70% of those students who are in Tier 1. And Tier 1 is basically they will learn to read with adequate reading instructions in our classrooms. We have 30% who are at that sort of that Tier 2, 3 level, who will need additional small group instruction and really just more practice based on what is happening. And then we have Tier 3, there's some overlap here between Tier 2 and Tier 3. That's why these numbers don't add up if you're going, wait, that's not 100%. You have the Tier 3 students are ones who will need long-term intervention and a lot of individual attention from specialist teachers. So what we're going to look at is today, when we look, we're going to be focusing, Joyful Literacy resource focuses on kind of Tier 2 kids who just need a little extra time and a few extra strategies, but ultimately they will fit into this 93% who can actually learn how to read at an adequate level in there. Okay, so literacy success. So the top 5 predictive and impactful variables, again, according to NELP in 2009, and hopefully you're starting to see the regularity of these concepts. So they need to have alphabet knowledge, so they need to understand the letters of the alphabet. They need to have phonemic awareness. Remember, that's where you can, it's the sounds. You can do that in the dark with your eyes closed. It's all about the sounds of the language. They need to know some sight words. They need to have fluency and prosody. And prosody is reading with expression. So it's loud, soft, fast, slow. And that prosody will indicate that they really have an understanding of the text and how phrasing works and how inflection will possibly change the meaning of the text. And ultimately, we want them to be able to write. I'm going to save writing for a whole different lecture. What we're going to do is look at these guys today around the concept of reading. Okay. So let's have a go here. Oh, I have to get rid of my pencil. Sorry. Oop, too many things flying up at me. Okay. So this is the Joyful Literacy resource of which I am referring to basically this whole lecture. It's called Joyful Literacy Interventions, Early Learning Classroom Essentials, and putting on the Blitz, our breakthrough method. This is by Dr. Janet Nadine Mort, and she's a PhD from British Columbia. She spent lots of years in the school as a teacher, as an administrator, and when she retired, she went, okay, we have a lot of children that are not at grade level by grade 3. And that's kind of that pivotal point. If they're not at grade level by reading in grade 3, unfortunately, stats are that they will never catch up because they're switching from learning to read to reading to learn, right? And so those kids who are struggling with phonemic awareness and phonics in grade 3 and 4, they are just going to get farther and farther and farther behind in school unless we can catch those kids up, especially in the early grades. So her resources are focused a lot on K to 3 and on getting those kids to grade level reading level by the time they reach grade 3. These resources are in our MHC library, so if you want to go and have an actual look at the resource, you can just request it and they will pull it for you and you can have a look at these particular resources. Okay, so let's look at who is this resource written for? So this was your reading. So hopefully you can answer these questions. Who is this resource written for? It's written basically for our Tier 2 students who just need a little bit more practice. What is the key to this resource? The key to this resource is the idea of doses. And I'm just going to read you this quote. Vulnerable children need more practice with new skills than children who learn a new skill just after 1 or 2 lessons. Putting on the Blitz and Joyful Literacy interventions, they will allow the child to work with the concept and they'll repeat it like 10 to 20 times. Whereas in the normal classroom, a child will only see it maybe 1 to 7 times. So it's called doses. So they just kind of like she refers back to when you go to the doctor. If you need a higher dosage, you get a higher dosage. And so she equates that to literacy in that if a child needs to see a concept more times, then the child should be able to see the concept more times because it's imperative that they do so they get that understanding, so that they are at grade level, so they don't fall behind, and yet you know where it's going if they fall behind. Okay, what is a blitz? A blitz is an intentional strategy designed for a group of targeted children who have similar skills needs. So again, it's laser focused on what exactly do these children need at this particular moment. And that's what a blitz is. And you go after it like a blitz. Go after it. Quarterback blitz. Everybody runs at the quarterback, right? And so we just take everything that we can get and we go after the particular skill that the student needs. And is assessment important in this resource? Yes. We absolutely have to know where the child is at. What are they struggling with? What have they gotten a hold of now? Because that affects the blitz, that affects the dosages, and then, of course, that affects how you go about supporting these particular students. Okay, so now, these resources have lots of great ideas for intervention, but also just as we go through, you'll see again, you'll go, hey, I think that could work with my whole class. Absolutely. So I want you to think about how these activities could help all your readers as I go through this today, especially those vulnerable ones in your class, and how could these activities actually help to gain literacy skills, and to think about sort of, I call them soft and hard literacy skills. So soft would be things like their own confidence, their own feeling of success, their own breaking down of preconceived notions of not being a reader, all the way to sort of hard resources like, can you actually sound these words out or decode these words? Okay, so as we go through, I want you to actually do these activities. So if I ask you to read a poem out loud, read the poem out loud. If I ask you to sing along with me, because it'll just make more sense if you actually go to implement these. It'll make more sense if you've actually done them. Okay, so here we go. We're going to take a romp through some of the activities that that I pulled out of these 2 resources to give you a little bit of a demonstration of what this is and how you can support all the learners in your class, those kids who are at tier 2 and those kids who are at tier 1. Okay, here we go. So again, I'm basing it around the NELP 2009 concepts of what we need to introduce for proper literacy instruction. So I'm going to start with alphabet knowledge. So what I want you to do is I want you to actually get a good old piece of paper. Yep, a good old piece of paper and a pencil or pen. And I want you to actually pick a letter, or do all of these if you need a little mental break, is pick a letter and just have some fun. Just draw the letter and then follow so that you have A here, you have a little A here, you have a little A here, you have a B here and as the nose of the face, you have a B here as the squirrel. You can see that some of them are linked to the actual words that it is and others are not. They're just more having some fun with the letters and getting the kids to sort of see the letters in all sorts of shapes. So actually go ahead and actually draw out these letters. Okay, so stop me and go and enjoy. Okay, hopefully you enjoyed that. It just kind of is a nice way to get the kids to start to see letters in things and start to visually connect the letters to remember the letter A that you drew in that little ant? Okay, that's the kind of thing in there. Okay, another activity you can do around alphabet knowledge is the book Chicka Chicka Boom Boom. And for some reason, this book is just like a crazy book. It's basically a letter book, and there's a kit in the library that has an actual physical like stuffed tree, little palm tree. It's super cute, and it has all the letters with a little piece of Velcro on. So you just have the kids, you give each kid a letter, and you actually have them just go up when their letter is called out in the book, and they put it on the tree, and then the tree falls over, and then they have to come back and get it, I think. So again, stop me and go and watch. This is a kindergarten class doing Chicka Chicka Boom Boom, and you can see how excited they are about this letter book, which is kind of fun. And if you love this book, you can go to the Kindergarten Smorgasbord, and they have all sorts of alternate activities to go along with the book. So it kind of expands the book a little bit in there. So again, go and stop and just see how much fun, see how joyful these strategies are in supporting the teaching of literacy. Okay, wasn't it fun? Those little kindergarten kids are just they're just so into it. Okay, to promote alphabet knowledge, if you sing with your kids, if you sing alphabet songs, they will sing with you, and that again is creating different synapses, creating different pathways for them to remember the alphabets. So sing along with me. Here is Denise Gagne, Alphabet Action Songs. This is she's one of my favorite music as well as literacy. She's a composer and a musician, but she writes some really amazing stuff that you can use in your literacy classroom. So here we go. This is Rockin' Robin. So sing along with me. Rockin' Robin likes to rock and roll. Rockin' Robin likes to rock and roll. Rockin' Robin likes to rock and roll. He really likes to rock and roll. Now you rap. Rockin' Robin likes to rap all day. Rockin' Robin likes to rap all day. Rockin' Robin likes to rap all day. He really likes to rap all day. Okay, so you're going, yeah. Think about your kindergarten kids, especially of those who have kindergarten, like those of you who are in kindergarten or grade 1 or grade 2, they will eat this up. They will love it. And you're reiterating, Rockin' Robin likes to rock and roll, right? There's so many great connections. Okay, so that's a little bit of a way that you can promote alphabet knowledge. You can also do Alligator Alarm. So this one goes, Alligator alarm, ah, alligator alarm, ah, owl's awake and alligator, owl's awake and looking for my arm, ah. And then you go through alligator alarm, ah, alligator alarm, ah, alligator, owl's awake and looking for my leg, and then you would show the leg, and then you would do the head, and then at the end they could say gulp because the alligator has eaten you up. Again, alligator alarm, ah, all sorts of sounds, and they're starting to put the kinesthetic to it, and so it's just a great way to again reinforce, give them lots of dosages, give them lots of chances to get that alphabet knowledge solidified in their head. And it's just It's just fun. It's just fun. Again, a little bit about singing. They don't really care how you sing, but as soon as you sing, there's that, remember, there's that there's something about a sing-a-songy style that will draw those students in, and it's a great way for them to learn the language because, again, alligator alarm, they're hearing those sounds over and over and over again. Okay, last one around alphabet knowledge, and now I actually want you to do this. So, I forgot to live link that, but I think you can just copy it and go. I want you to actually look at this YouTube clip. It is the Alphabet City book called by Stephen Johnson. And basically what he's done is he's taken pictures of letters that are in the outside world. So they're on a bridge, they're at a school. So what I want you to do is I actually want you to watch it, and then I actually want you to walk around your house, or if you happen to be at the college, and I want you to actually look for letters anywhere. In your house, in your cupboard, in your fridge, on your dog, whatever. And I want you to actually take a picture, and I want you to upload it to Google Slides. I've put a slide per person for the class, so just upload your slide or your picture on to your slide with your name on it, and then we can, if you're okay, we can keep that open, and you can use it as a resource if you use this kind of activity in your classroom. So again, stop me, take your phone and wander around your house and find some really cool places where there are letters in your cupboard, your fridge, a candle, whatever, but find those letters. So actually go and do that, and then upload it to this Google Doc, Google Slides in the Google Doc form. Okay. That's alphabet awareness. It's super fun. And again, you can really probably see how kids would enjoy doing something like this, as well as it will support particularly those two-tier kids who absolutely need more practice with all this. Okay, phonemic awareness. Now, again, you want to be thinking about all of these concepts when you are teaching phonemic awareness. So let's just kind of go through a quick review. So initial sounds, you have to know, so that is where, can you tell me the first sound in the word duck? D, d, d. They just have to know the sound. They don't have to know that it's a D. So that's what I mean by initial sound, duck. Blending is where you're combining sounds. So when you put baby, baby becomes one word. Segmenting is the opposite. So what are the different sounds in baby? B, A, B, E. And then they would be able to actually segment it out. So they actually know that baby is made out of B, A, B, E, the four sounds. Okay, deleting and substituting. This is when a child understands the sounds in the letters so well that he or she can delete or substitute letters and sounds in their head. So if you say, can you change cot to a furry animal? They can actually change that to cat. Okay, so they have it so segmented in their mind that they can take one out and put one in. Compound words are basically bringing together two words to make another word that has a unique meaning. So something like base and ball, when you bring them together. Baseball is different than just base and ball. It becomes baseball, which is a particular thing. Or moonlight, when you bring moon and light together. Moonlight, it becomes a unique word with a unique definition. And rhymes, again, can you give me a word that rhymes with dog? And they would say, you can let them use silly words, wog, sog, or they can use real words, log, mog. Can't think of any good rhyming words with dog, sog, log, cog. Okay. So you get the idea. You know what rhymes are in here. Okay, so we are going to now have a little bit of fun with these. So these are some activities that you could do. Oh, actually, so sorry. Now, I'm going to actually stay on this one. So initial sounds. So these are some fun joyful literacy games, activities that you can do to promote the concept of initial sounds. So one, if you could have them work in pairs, and one of them could look around the room, kind of do like an I spy, and they could say blackboard. And then they would say to person two, okay, I want you to identify the initial sound of blackboard. So then this person two would say B. And then this person would say, okay, what is the final sound? Blackboard, D, D. And then they would just kind of go do a little I spy and then ask the initial sounds. So again, that's just kind of a fun little game in there. Blending, you can play duck, goose, but with individual sounds. So if I was to do duck, goose with dinosaur, I would have the child go around and tap lightly on the shoulder in non-COVID times. Dinosaur. So you can also, if you're doing blending, you could also do it by syllable. So instead of D, I, N, O, S, O, or. I would probably do this one as where you would do it by syllable. So dine, oh, soar. And then they tap that kid and then they run. It's just a typical duck, goose game, but you would use it in a phonemic awareness type of setting. Okay, so segmenting, this is when they can jump to talk about how many syllables if you're doing something like that. So if you will put literacy learning is fun. Okay, so then they would talk about syllables that they had jumped on, and then you would say, okay, how many words in that sentence? Literacy learning is fun. So it has many more syllables than it does words. Okay, so again, just some kind of fun ways to get them kinesthetically engaged, as well as they really get a sense of what is going on with phonemes. Okay, let's look at deleting and substituting. So in this situation, you could give them something like this. So kin, what I want you to do is I want you to change the first letter to create a word that has a pointy end. So you would hopefully change that to pin. And then you would change the first letter to create a word that religion sees this as a bad thing. Sin. Change the last letter to something you do as champagne. I actually obviously made these for you guys, not for, you wouldn't probably use these examples with grade ones, but I thought you guys might enjoy this. Then we're on sip. So then the next one is change the middle sound to something that comes out of trees. Sap. Change the first letter to something you wear in your head. Cap. Change the middle letter to a slang word for a police officer. Cop. Change the first letter to an old-fashioned toy. Top. Change the first letter to a fizzy drink. Pop. Change the middle letter to a small dog. Pup. And then add a letter to something you have to do when your tire is flat. Pump. So that you could lead kids through something that is obviously age appropriate for them, but so that you could really see whether they can delete and substitute sounds, phonemic sounds in there. Okay, so let's continue on here. So we've got initial sounds, blending, segmenting, deleting, substituting. Let's look at compound words now. So you might say to the kids, okay, everybody say cowboy. And they all say cowboy. Now you could say, don't say cow, but say the other word in the compound word. Hopefully they will say boy. And then you could say, if we kept boy, what is another word we can put in front of the boy to describe somebody who delivers paper? Paper boy. Okay, so again, it's that a little bit of fun, a little bit of play on words. You can bring in pictures to help them out so that they get that sense. And finally, let's have a look at rhymes, because kids love rhymes and they're so amazing for helping them again, get the sound of the language in their ears. So what I want you to do, and I want you to actually do this, is I'm going to read you the poem called Daddy Fell into the Pond, which is kind of a funny poem. And I'm just going to read it to you. Just listen for pleasure, and then I'll tell you what we're going to do with rhyming words after I read it. So, everyone grumbled. The sky was gray. We had nothing to do and nothing to say. We were nearing the end of a dismal day. And then there seemed to be nothing beyond. Then Daddy fell into the pond, and everyone's face grew merry and bright, and Timothy danced for sheer delight. Give me the camera, quick, oh quick! He's crawling out of the duckweed, click! Then the gardener suddenly slapped his knee and doubled up, shaking silently. And the ducks all quacked as if they were daft, and it sounded as if the old drake laughed. Oh, there wasn't a thing that didn't respond when Daddy fell into the pond. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to go back to just the first verse, so just this verse here. And oops, down to here. And I want you to write out the words that rhyme. So everyone grumbled, the sky was gray. We had nothing to do and nothing to say. We were nearing the end of a dismal day, there seemed to be nothing beyond. Then Daddy fell into the pond. Okay, so hopefully you found that gray, say, day rhyme, and then beyond and pond rhyme. Now this is interesting because when you're getting up into your upper, like your grade 2s and 3s, you can talk about why is gray EY and say AY, and why do they rhyme? It's because they sound the same, but they're spelled different. That kind of a thing. Okay, so again, use lots of poetry, use lots of fun text. Dr. Seuss is lots of fun. They love those sort of rhyming, and it's really great for phonemic awareness when you use something fun and silly like this that they can enjoy, but also learn tons from. Okay, let's jump into now. This is the third of 5 concepts around joyful literacy, is that sight words. And we looked a little bit at sight words in our last lesson. And these are the 220 Dolch words in alphabetic order that we looked at before. And if the purpose of reading is to construct meaning from text, then sight word recognition will aid in developing fluency and automaticity, allowing students to focus their efforts on the more mentally demanding task of reading comprehension. Right? So joyful literacy, if you're using this as a resource, you will find that it focuses on learning of these sight words because they don't want the students to be bogged down because so many words are repeated so often. Okay? And over time, students' sight word bank will grow much beyond this Dolch sight word. So for us as adults, pneumonia is now a sight word for us because we've seen it so often that it just now we don't really have to spell it. We don't have to decode it. We just know it by sight. And then we can get to the meaning of the text in here. Okay, so we saw how important knowing sight words are when we did this little exercise, right? We circled almost every word on here. So it's an important it is an important strategy in here. So ways that you will find joyful literacy and probably some other resources teaching sight words is the good old flashcards, like just here's the flashcards, remember, here's is, what, when, where, and you just flash through them. But also joyful literacy would suggest that along with the flashcards is you look for authentic opportunities to introduce sight words. So maybe at carpet time in the morning where they're doing, you're talking about the weather and the color of the sky, and the color of the sky is blue, so they can see that it's a blue sky, and then you bring in the sight word blue, so that there's actually some kind of connection. And they also suggest that you group these sight words around some meaning. So you might group all of the numbers together, like 1, 2, 3, 4. You might group all the colors together. So blue, black, green, yellow, white. Those are all sight words. So you might want to group those together for kids so they at least have some kind of a context. But again, there are so many words that it does help if they can. It does help if they can have those words that they just recognize by sight without always having to decode. Okay, so joyful literacy, these are some fun ways that this resource brings in to actually teach sight words. So they have, this is, I think these are fun. So they SWAT the sight word. So you would say something like bee, and then they would have to find bee, and then they hit the word bee on the ground with the fly swatter. Okay, so you'd have to have set up some good classroom management things before here. But again, they have a lot of fun doing that. You can also do a parking lot game where they have little cars and you have little stalls for them. And then you say, okay, I want you to drive into the word B. And then they drive their little car and then they park it in B in there. You can also do snowball sight words. Basically, it's just circles of paper with all of the sight words. And then they flip it over and they say can, and then they get to keep that. Sometimes teachers will make lots and they can crumple them up and then they can throw the snowballs, all those kind of things in there. They're just kind of fun ways, again, to be teaching sight words. I'm going to deviate a little bit from the Joyful Literacy resource because I think it's important that you know that there's another view about teaching sight words that is out there that is gaining a fair bit of steam because it is based in cognitive science. And they're starting to say that maybe memorizing 220 words may be too much for our tier 2 and 3 students, and that actually we need to be focusing on teaching students how to decode sight words through phonics instruction. So there's this kind of kickback to the idea that phonics and decoding is super important. So basically, they would now say that, again, when there is a sight word that can be decoded, why does a kid have to memorize it? Why would you not give them the decoding skills to decode it so that they don't have to memorize so many words? So that then all of the words that need to be kind of memorized are characterized as flash words or heart words. And flash words are words that they need to be able to read and spell in a flash because they come up so often. Things like can and but and did. However, these can be sounded out because they're regular. K and n is irregular. There are 138 words on the Dolch word list that actually can be sounded out if they have strong phonemic awareness and phonics training. They also can learn what's called heart words, and these are words with irregular sounds, and they're used so often that, again, they need to be used by heart. There are 82 words on the Dolch word list that would be heart words. So instead of memorizing 220 words, students would only have to memorize 83 words, which is much more accessible, especially to those tier 2 kids who are really struggling. If you're interested in reading a little bit more on this, Reading Rockets has actually this first website has a really good summation of this argument. And then I will introduce this to you next year in 3103, but if you are interested in a resource that's based on cognitive science that's really pushing for phonics and decoding, it's called The Secret Stories, and by Katie Garner, and I've put the link here if you're interested. And she says that we need to teach the kids all the sounds in kindergarten, all the sounds, all the letters in kindergarten in 2 to 3 months. So she would say, okay, so like UR, ER, and IR, the sound that those letter combinations makes, it's like like driving your car crazy around the corner. Think about it. Hurt, bird, turn, then they all make that sound. Can a 5-year-old relate to driving the car? Absolutely. And so she talks about we need to tell kids stories about how to get these sounds versus just talking about ER makes an sound because it's too abstract. Anyways, that's a little bit of a deviation, but I wanted you to know that there's definitely a stirring out there, especially around sight words and phonics and phonemic awareness. Okay, let's go on into, again, this is the fourth one. This is the fourth one around literacy. Teaching, again, writing is the fifth, and we won't jump into that one until a little later on. So let's sing again. Inch by inch, row by row, gonna make this garden grow. Gonna mulch it deep and low, gonna make it fertile ground. Inch by inch, row by row, please bless these seeds I sow. Please keep them safe below till the rain comes tumbling down. Again, anytime you can sing to your kids, it will just help them get the flow of the language. It introduces vocab really easily. It will support, all the kids they will sing, and it will help, especially those tier 2 kids who find reading so difficult. If they just get to sing inch by inch, row by row, they get the lilt, they get the feel of the language, which ultimately will help them in there. Also, for fluency, you can do lots of choral speech where your whole class is saying the same text together. And The Raven is one of Edgar Allan Poe. You could do all of it if you have upper grades, or you could just do maybe the first stanza. But again, they would all be saying it together. Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered, weak and weary, over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore, while I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as of someone gently rapping my chamber door. "'Tis some visitor," I muttered, tapping at my chamber door. "Only this, and nothing more." Okay, so obviously you're not going to introduce the Raven to kindergarten kids, but your 4, 5s, and 6s, absolutely, they love this poem, especially around Halloween. Okay, so again, when you are all speaking this text all together, all at the same time, those kids who can't find that fluency will hear this repeated over and over and over and over again. So again, you're diving into this text over and over again. So they're getting those dosages, they're getting those repetitions that they need. And they're hearing all these different interpretations of the words. And again, that will help with not just their fluency, but their comprehension. So if they didn't know what weak and weary mean, when you're like, weak and weary, they're probably going to figure out that you're kind of tired, right? Kind of thing in there. Okay, so again, bring in lots of poetry, bring in lots of choral speech where they're all saying something together, versus individual reading where they feel put on the spot and they feel totally self-conscious. You know, when you used to get called upon to read, didn't your heart pound? Like you didn't want to make a mistake. Again, think about those readers who are struggling. It's rough. They'll do anything to get out of that. They'll misbehave. They will roll on the floor so that they don't have to read. So again, think about how you can get them to read in a group setting where the stakes are low in there. Okay, now what I want to do is I've given you this resource, and it's kind of a cool resource, practical ways to help readers who need support. So this is not part of Joyful Literacy, but I wanted you to see this particular resource. So again, sometimes when we're working with readers, we don't actually know what to say. We don't know how to help them other than just correcting them. So this actually gives you some really good ideas. So I'm just going to skip ahead to page 10. Sorry if this is making you a little ill. So I like this one. So Before the student begins to read, tell the student, if you come to a word that you do not know, I will help you with it. I will tell you the correct word while you listen and point to the word in the book. After that, I will want you to repeat the word and continue reading. Try your best not to make mistakes, obviously. And so again, I think it's just have a look through. You probably don't want to say this exactly every time, but it gives you some ideas of how to actually, when you're working one-on-one or you're working in your practicum with students, what do you actually say to the students when you're reading and maybe they are making errors? Okay, so let's go down to our final thought here. So I want you to think about this as you go through this, or as you've had a chance to have a go with these joyful literacy strategies. How can such activities specifically help our students who struggle with reading to gain literacy skills and confidence in reading? Because that's ultimately what I want you to be able to do, is to take these concepts, these ideas, and actually help those kids who need help with their reading in order to gain, as we know, vital literacy skills. Okay, awesome. That is all for this one. Enjoy Joyful Literacy. I hope you had fun singing and taking pictures and doing Alligator Alarm in there. And hopefully it gives you a chance to see how we can make learning these fundamentals of reading, how we can make it joyful.